Alrighty. Okay, I believe we're live. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Smudcast number 356. Female Thor flopped debunked. This is by Comic Drake. And if you don't know Comic Drake, I think we covered one of his other videos before. Not the most entertaining guy, but he's just sort of doing his thing and doing it oddly, let's just say. And I'll say until we get into the video, our actual criticism. So, this video came out 2 years ago, and these are all information and sales figures from, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. So I don't know what the big deal is and what he's talking about, because when you're talking about something performing a certain way, you're saying in comparison to what? What is the thing you're like? Is it apples to apples? If so, which is the apple? Because we're talking about Thor. There's all kinds of versions of Thor the same way there's all kinds of versions of Batman and Spider-Man and Superman. So what is a fair comparison and what is he talking about? Because I can cherry pick data from all over the place, especially with comic books, because there's so many things to look at. You can go back to 69, you can go into the 2000s, you can go to 2010s. So there's all kinds of Thor comics. What is a relevant? Then there's inflation, then there's the price tag, then there's the trade paperbacks, there's the variant covers. There's all sorts of bullshit you could look at.
Well, and also it's like everyone goes to the, like we talked about earlier, the sales as in like what gets sold in comic book shops, not actually what actually gets bought by people.
Right, and unfortunately we don't have those numbers because that would involve the actual inventory of individual stores, brick and mortar stores, selling to people and then reporting that to someone, I don't even know who.
Yeah.
Which does not take into account digital sales that they also could do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where if a company really wanted to, they could make 1 million copies, sell them to the stores, or just give them, you know what I mean, pretty much just give them to the stores and say, look, we sold 1 million. And it's like, right, okay.
Right. So the actual numbers, let me just see if I can pull them up. I think I have them around here somewhere. 2015. Okay, good. See if I can get those on the screen. There we go. All right, so this is from comiccron.com, and this is the 2015 year. This is the report of the year of all the comic books from major publishers. I think the top 200 or whatever it is. And I don't know how it looks on the screen here because my screen isn't cut in half. But let me just search for Thor. And we have Thor's. I don't know what Thor's is. It's on eBay. Issue number 1, and we have Mighty Thor, which is exactly what was it called and printed in 2015. And that's also number 1, and that's number 73 out of the top. What is it? 200. Let me just go down the list here. Top 500. Okay, so that's not bad. It's in the top 100 of all things, but in comparison to other comic books that are also called Thor, and there's a lot. Let me check out the...
See, the one that I looked on, which had the sales 2020, the first thing that mentions Jane Foster and everything like that is 216 out of 597.
Right.
And it's like, oh, right, okay.
So here's the... also by the year, this is 2007. This is the J. Michael Straczynski run, which actually had a lot of delays. So it came out later. It missed a month. And it was a 5-issue run. This is number 4 on the list. So in terms of how many sales it made, not in terms of how much money it made. Because there's a big difference between 2007 and 2015 in terms of inflation, price, that sort of thing. So
there was that little incident in 2008. For the life of me, I can't. Oh wait, it was the financial crash. Yeah. It's just a small thing. Only a few billion people were affected by it.
Right. So we're going to do the numbers later because I have a bunch of by the month because that's what the website does. And just to clarify, it's by the month from the sales to stores, not the sales from stores to people buying the comic. It's the inventory purchased from the comic book store from the publisher. So this is a very statistic based analysis, and I don't like doing these things because it's like you could pull in anything. You could pull in all kinds of numbers and you could fudge them. You could talk about them. How do I compare the run of Thor from JMS to Mighty Thor to God of Thunder to all these other, like the Eternal Thor, Thor Eternals, like all these other versions of Thor? I don't know. I'm not a Thor expert. So anyway, let's.
And honestly, don't look at me to being a Thor expert. I'm just
right.
He's played by an Australian. So yeah, he has one eye now.
Apparently, I have no idea.
Cool.
Anyway, let's get back to the video and see what Mr. Comic.
Let's get back to the video. We haven't even started.
Well, I was on the tab. I was on the other tab. So
I
have so many tabs open. I'm like, where's all my video? I can't find it. Okay. Anyway.
I thought I'd missed something. That was the thing.
Yeah. Anyway.
Have you started without me?
It's only a 9.5-minute video, so it shouldn't take too long.
Yay.
Hey guys, here with an unscripted video, but that doesn't mean that it's not researched. I am so tired about talking about Jane Foster's Thor here and on Twitter, and I also hate doing these kind of debunked videos because I just feel like it's negative. However...
We'll just stop then. Okay, we can go home, guys.
Yay!
We did it. I really, really hate doing these videos. No, you don't. Stop lying.
Yeah, this is boring crap to me because I really don't care what comics sold what when. It doesn't bother me. I have
comics are dying. No offense, comics are just it's not even beating a dead horse. The horse has rotted away. They've made what glue they can, and like we say, you can't actually figure out how popular a comic is because you can't get the proper sales and figures.
But I will say, it's not hard to find these online and to read them. And if you want, check out Thor 2007 and check out Mighty Thor in 2014 or 15, and just read the series. See what you like best because it's that simple, and you'll tell me what you think of it. So, anyway.
Negative. However, misinformation being spread, and I feel like it's my obligation to actually chime in about it. I recently did a video that did pretty well talking about why I was a big fan of Jason Aaron's take on Jane Foster as Thor because I enjoyed his entire run from Thor God of Thunder all the way up to War of the Realms. However, there were a lot of people in my comment section claiming that the Jane Foster books sold poorly and that's why they were canceled. And I'm here to talk about that because one, they weren't canceled. It was always meant to be temporary. I mean, anybody who actually read the book could pretty easily tell that this was not meant to be an ongoing thing. They had to finish up the story so they could get to Thor Volume 5 to make the way for War of the Realms. So yeah, not canceled, at least as far as my research has been able to see. I understand that a lot of people think that whenever a book ends, that means it's canceled, but I see the term canceled being thrown around a lot by people who don't know much about the comic industry, especially for stuff like a miniseries ending, and that's just not accurate. But I do want to address the sales issue.
My major problem with that is every miniseries is a miniseries retroactively nowadays. So a lot of these comics that are being made, they do really badly, and then people come out and say, "Oh, it was only meant to be a miniseries." But I've never heard. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, there was no advertising that it was a miniseries.
Right.
There was no advertising stuff. It's like, do you remember Watchmen, the HBO series?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, they made out after obviously the viewing figures went down, but it was a limited series. It was only meant to be like a mini series. But they were talking about doing numerous series before it aired, and I'm like, so you've just changed the story, as in like the narrative around it. You also changed it so that it could win an Emmy for best miniseries. When it wasn't that, so a lot of these feel to me like it's it was only meant to be a mini series, when in reality it's like, no, you wanted it. It's quite clear that this was meant to be things were meant to be a long running stuff. But maybe Gingerman can shed more light on it since he's probably more into the comic book world.
Not exactly.
Oh, great.
I mean, I just got here, man.
Yeah, well, you should have been here 10 minutes ago, but okay.
I was on the road. I was on my way home from work. I said
That's
that
no
days
excuse.
ago.
That's no excuse. No, but
No, I'm not
my
going to
thing
be better than join the call on the road.
I'm joking. It's fine, man.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't see many things like with comic books advertised as miniseries. Nothing really shouts out. This is just a mini series. It's just a limited run. I know people in the comments are probably going to say, "But blah blah blah." You know, all this, but they don't come across like that. We're always advertised as the next greatest fucking long running series. I mean, every single Captain Marvel it can't be called a mini series because they just keep rebooting it because it doesn't sell that well.
Well, what I want to compare though,
because they don't want to lose the name to DC again. They got to keep cranking out shit.
When we're talking about Mighty Thor, the Jane Foster arc, that was 8 episodes. That was a very small run. Compare that, and I always compare it to JMS just because that's the most well-known that I can think of, that sort of revitalized Thor as a character, and that's what we see with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's like over 50 plus comics, okay? And that ran for a few years. So it's hard to compare these two things. And if it was popular, they obviously would have keep making more. It's that simple. So
yeah, exactly. It just feels to me that the way he says people say cancelled and they don't understand him. It feels to me that people say miniseries and limited run, and it always comes after something they've liked has been cancelled.
Right, and a lot of these things he's going to get into the numbers of how they buy comics and why, and people buy just the number one and they wait for the trade paperback or whatever because they like the comic as a story, not because they want to own everything. They want the story to read. And I personally enjoy trade paperbacks. It's easier to hold on to. It's all in one little book. But when back in the day, I would buy number one of this and that, but that was just because I was a collector at the time. So anyway,
makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. Let's get into the video.
Sales issue. People are saying that the Jane Foster Thor book sold super poorly, and that is just not the case. So I have here a bunch of sales data that I want to share with you guys about Thor Volume 4, which is when Jane Foster first took up the mantle. Now, all of this information comes from a website called Comichron, and this is a website that you see cited a whole lot when it comes to comic book sales data because they're kind of the only people that are tracking this. I will say, though, that this website...
That's the one where I found that... the stuff from last year that doing Jane Foster's like 216th on the list of 597. So
that's the one I'm using. Yeah. I'm using exactly the same as he is because that's all we got.
Yeah. No, but as I'm like, I don't really look at comic figures that much because, no offense, they're all pretty shit.
Well, back in the day, we had a big compendium called Wizard, I believe, and that was just had sales of everything every month and every year. Who bought what is Superman #1 selling for? That sort of price list is half the book was just prices, and all the comics there. So now we just have this website, which is fine. I don't really care. Whatever numbers they're there, fine. Let's use it. So let's see his numbers.
The site is a bit of a flawed system. They are only tracking the sales that are sold to stores, not necessarily to customers. I have a lot of issues with the modern comic industry, and this is very indicative of them. So one of the things that's interesting is that because we're only using Comichron sales, that doesn't include digital sales, which a sizable amount of people are moving towards, especially young readers. We're living in the age where print media is dying, so strictly going off of physical sales is a little bit weird. However, it is useful to use Comichron when you're looking at larger trends, not necessarily for the exact minutia. Anyway, Issue 1 of Thor Volume 4 sold 150,862 units, and that was the third best-selling comic of the month. Now, this is very standard when it comes to Issue 1, so those are going to be the best performing of all of them. A lot of people are still buying...
Okay, so let's see what he said there. It was 1,000 in the 100K section. Let me just pull up that date, because I have it here. Okay. There it is. So here's Thor #1, 1,000... Sorry, what is this? Yeah, 1,000 150,862.
Mhm.
I don't know if I could show that on the screen because it's cut off again. But mine,
You know when you said like ages ago that Canadians weren't good with numbers? You know, I 100% believe you, Smud,
yeah.
because you just cannot say 150,000.
I was
It's
like,
just
reading,
amazing.
I'm looking at my
Really?
screen. I'm remembering the number. I'm looking at my
It's such
screen.
an ambivalent skill you have to be unable to say.
It's gonna blow it up. This is not zooming in. Is not working. Anyway, never mind. This is 150,000, and the one from 2007, issue number 1, is 165,000. So,
Mhm.
not much of a difference, but
Mhm.
smaller than the 2007. Not a big deal.
Mhm.
I don't care. I wish I could show you the number, but it's just this crazy website's all scrolled to the right, and my screen is not. Anyway,
So screwy.
let's go.
So yeah.
Issue 1's collector's value. Personally, I buy most of my comics digitally, and I do still buy the number 1 strictly for whenever I'm doing my live action set. I rotate out my comics all the time, but I'm not known to buy more than just the first issue. So issue 2 went down to 89,131 units. It was the 6th best-selling comic of the month. So yeah, we saw a pretty sizable difference, but it's still pretty common to see a big number like this for issue 2s. Now, when we get to issue 3 at 72,563 units, this is kind of where the rest of Thor Volume 4 stays. Issue 4, 69,000, issue 5, 69,000, issue 6...
And I'm not going to pull up the numbers, but the difference is instead of a half, like he went from 150 down to 70, 60. That's roughly half. The difference between that is a third. So instead of 165, it's down to 100, 110, 90, around there as the months go on, and so much more sales with the 2007 run.
70,000, 72,000, and issue 8 at 86,000. The annual is the least selling of all of them with only 58,000, but that's not uncommon for annuals. And this was released on the same month as issue 5. Now, one thing that you're going to see here is that the absolute lowest that any of these books place in the total rankings was at the 17th best-selling comic of the month. And that was for the annual. So yeah, for Thor Volume 4, it never dipped below the 20th best-selling comic of the month when the issues were released. Now, unfortunately, that isn't enough for some people, like this guy in my comment section that said that we shouldn't be looking at monthly sales, but rather the yearly sales. And I'm going to admit, yeah, the Thor books didn't sell that much in the grand scope of things. If you look at 2014, which...
Okay, so then we don't know what he's comparing this to. If he's just looking at all the sales, then he's right. It didn't sell that well in comparison. And that was the first thing we showed. I can actually show that number. Where is it? Here it is. It is ranked number 73 out of 500. So in the top 100, pretty good, but not as good as 2007, which is number 4 out of 500. So bit of a difference.
Yeah. There's nothing really to add. It's like when you have access to this, it's a bit like, yeah, whatever you say, I can just look up something that can just disprove you.
Yeah, like relative to, this is all about his criteria. If his criteria is just Thor to everything else, then it's good to average. And those are for a popular comic, I'd imagine that's okay. But to previous Thor examples, no, it's not as good.
No, definitely not.
Was when Thor Volume came out, it did have 2 books that were in the top 100, but let's take a look at this list a little bit more. Of the entire American comic book industry, which is including indies, there were 38 titles that sold in the top 100. Now, of those, there were 6 series that had 2 or more books in the runnings. Spider-Man had Amazing, Superior, and 2099, Wolverine had the Standard Book and Death of Wolverine, Superman had the Standard Book and Superman Unchained, Avengers had the Standard and Avengers World, and Batman had the Standard Comic, Batman Eternal, and Detective Comics. Now, if you were to include Spider-Woman as a Spider-Man book and Grayson and Harley Quinn as Batman books, that means that Spider-Man had 4 of the top 100 books in 2014, totaling in at 24 out of 100 issues, and Batman had 5 with 22 out of 100 issues. So out of the entire American comic industry, 2 franchises sold 46 out of the top 100 comics. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for any other series to really shine. So that means...
Well, that's mainly because those are the icons.
Well, hold on.
At least that's some kind of lion's share of the sales because those are the ones that everyone knows.
I'm sorry that another comic book sold well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care if Batman was 99 out of 100. It obviously means that people wanted to read that. What? That's not an argument.
No, it's not.
It doesn't give him enough place to shine. If you're good enough and people want to read it, people will read it. They don't go into a comic book and there's a guy with a shotgun going, "You're going to buy Batman or Spider-Man or we're going to blast you." It's like, you can buy what you want to buy.
Yeah, and that's my point that the Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, those again, those have the major advantage that those are the ones that literally everyone knows. Those are the icons, and those are the ones that definitely in their own universes definitely have the most impact in whatever is going on in DC or Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's 46 of 100. Okay, so that means there's 54 other comics that are in the top 100 that aren't those 2.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of space. Very strange.
I would like to keep in mind the sale of Thor #1. It's actually on the screen in July from 2007. Was the best month in the unit sales category since 1996 for Marvel. So that's why I want to compare it to like landmarks that you could point to and go, okay, this is what Thor does. This is how good Thor should be. And it's not as good in terms of sales from the same website. All right.
Well, in the late 90s, Marvel had the disadvantage of they almost went completely bankrupt. So that can definitely be a reason for why things went downhill from there.
Hooray!
Yeah. Anyway. It's gonna be a really short video. It's like, yeah, here are the numbers. Okay, great. That's the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Means that it's pretty impressive that the Jane Foster Thor books managed to have 2 out of that remainder. And yes, I will admit that this is from the very early issues of the book. These were the best-selling out of the entire run. However, this is where things get a little bit tricky when it comes to Marvel Comics, because they put all of their books on hiatus to make room for an event called Secret Wars. Instead of releasing all of their books, they stopped production on all of them and instead made a bunch of tie-ins for a good while, and that was hard. So coming back from Secret Wars, the first issue of the Mighty Thor, which is what Thor Volume 4 was renamed to, was a little bit buried with the other relaunches. Even though it was still the 9th best-selling comic of the month, it was below 5 new Marvel #1s, Uncanny X-Men #600, which was essentially another #1 but with legacy numbering, an issue of Secret Wars itself, and the debut of the next installment of the Dark Knight Returns series. Now, issue 2 had the usual decline that comes with not being a #1, but again, it was buried by other new #1s, annuals, and specials. Not to mention that another Secret Wars was released, along with a massive increase of sales from DC Comics as their next big phase was being hyped up, Rebirth. Also, in a funny tidbit, this is finally what brought a Jane Foster book below the top 20, which clocked in at 21.
Okay, so we got Secret Wars, Dark Knight, Star Wars, Batman, Guardians of Infinity.
Boo, below the top 20 by 1.
Yeah. There's all kinds of other comics here. Yeah, so that's I mean, it's not bad, but clearly others are doing better. Because look at all the #1s. Look at like Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, Harley's Little Black Book 1, Star Wars Annual 1, Darth Vader Annual 1, Daredevil 1, Amazing Spider-Man 4, All New X-Men 1, Deadpool 1, Gwenpool Special. Like these are all #1. So yeah, he's right. The ones will sell them out. And they did. So
yeah, but that's what happened. I'm just
all these others
like he said. Oh, the #1 sell out the most. Yeah, but look at all these #1s selling out. It's the only reason it pushed down. Yeah, you know that. What?
Yeah, these other comics have nothing to do with the popularity of the actual comic that we're talking about. So
Yeah,
you might
people aren't
argue,
just allowed to buy one comic.
yeah, you
can
might
buy more than
argue
one comic.
the average kid or whatever, whomever's buying comic books, does not spend and buy everything. You know, they buy what they like.
I don't know.
So
Not anymore, at least.
yeah, after number one, you're like, that's not for me.
Yeah, but it just feels like his argument is like you can only buy one comic, and then that's
it
it.
dropped more than half. So it went from 150,000 to 70,000. So that's a big drop compared to 1/3 from 165 to 100, roughly 100 to 110,000 for number 2 of the 2007 run. So for whatever reason, it's not as popular.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I went ahead through the entirety of the Mighty Thor series, and I made 2 different graphs. One is for the total sales, and then one is for the market placement. You're going to notice that even though, yes, there is the normal decline that comes with comics, literally every single one goes through it, they still kind of sold a pretty consistent amount of books through the entirety of it. But also, the market placement was all over the place. Because remember when I was mentioning that DC was launching Rebirth? Well, when they did, it started dominating the sales chart, and they were at the very top because all of their books were getting fresh relaunches. It was a lot of stuff that fans are begging for, and that means that all of Marvel's books started to decline as a result. Now, we did see a couple of spikes in the sales data, such as issue 15, which was also the same month that the Mighty Thor trade was released. This is actually pretty common because there's a lot of people that don't want to buy issue by issue. They do what's called trade waiting, where they wait for the trade. Typically, trades are going to be a lot cheaper than buying all the issues individually.
Okay, so if you guys don't know it, a trade or trade paperback, it's all the issues up to that point of the year in one single thick paperback.
Oh yeah, it's specific storylines compacted into one giant comic.
Yeah, that's how I bought all my Sandman comics. I just bought them all, one big lump, and collected them as they came out because I didn't want individuals. I wanted one giant book. So.
And trades also allow writers and editors to like fix certain like details and dialogues within the comic.
They also put in some letters to the editor and a bunch of other good stuff. So
yeah,
I like it.
There is one detail from a trade that I do remember back when I think it was during the Crisis on Infinite Earths trade paperback, when they're talking about summoning all the heroes to tell them about the antimatter. When the page that talks about the summoning, they forgot to combine summon and ing, so the space between them is still there in the trade. Because that's where the paper folded in the original comic. It's like if you got on your way to like make a scan of it, the spacing is still there.
Oh, well done.
Well, we are 2/3 done, so we're really rocketing past this video. So.
And convenient for a lot of people. However, there are some people that decide to trade wait, and if they like the book so much, then they're more willing to be buying the current issues. So that is what that spike kind of explains. Now, there was another big spike with issue 700, and don't worry, there weren't a bunch of other comics that were released. This was instead Marvel deciding to go back to legacy numbering and make it a big deal. I'm personally not a fan of that, but you can kind of treat it like it's a brand new number 1. And this also did make it the second best-selling comic of the month. Now, the sales went right back down to where they were beforehand because this was from the same people who were reading the book prior, but this was also the marking of the final arc. They were going to finally kill off Jane Foster so that Thor Odinson could get the hammer back to start paving the way towards War of the Realms and finally complete Jason Aaron's story that he had been telling since 2012. And although she did come back to life shortly after, in fact, it was kind of like she never died in the first place because she just simply didn't move on to the afterlife because comics. This is also pretty indicative of the market. Whenever there's a big event like this, especially with a character dying, you're going to see an uptick in sales. Now, throughout all of Jane's time as Thor, from Thor Volume 4 to Mighty Thor, the lowest that her book sold was 35,499 units. At the time of this recording, the most recent sales data that we have from comics is May 2019. At those units sold, this puts the lowest performing Jane book above some seemingly bigger characters like the Punisher, Iron Man, Shazam, Wonder Woman, Miles Morales, Daredevil, and Doctor Strange. Now, don't get me wrong.
Oh my fucking god!
Thor series sold as well as Thor.
Hold on. Literally in that list of people, I think Iron Man is the one that's the most shocking that he's there. But come on, seriously,
You're sure it wasn't because of the agenda that it beat all those?
No, but that list of characters of comics that Jane Foster's 4 beat. Wow, literally the only one I'm surprised that she beat was Iron Man. But then again, was it actually Iron Man at this point, or was it Ironheart? Because that's a very important thing.
Yeah, because for at least a comic or so, Ironheart did take the Iron Man name for a comic, even though it makes absolutely zero fucking sense.
Yeah. But that's like saying, oh, the Joker's the best Batman villain above the Ratcatcher, Polka Dot Man. You're like, well, yeah.
Who remembers them?
It's like she beat Doctor Strange, and then I'm just like, yeah.
But not because it was a legitimate fight.
Yeah, but it was also a bit like, Doctor Strange isn't that well known outside of people who really like Doctor Strange. No offense to Doctor Strange fans.
I mean, he's more known than he was before. I'll be honest about that.
Yeah, I know,
and not just because of the MCU movie.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things you're a bit like, yeah, okay, you beat that person, and then Shazam, you're like, yeah, okay.
It's like whoop-de-doo.
I actually don't see Thor on this list. Like, I'm looking over and over. I just can't see it.
Mighty Thor?
Yeah, where is it? I went down this list a few times now. I can't see it. Tony Stark is at 67. And then I went up and down. I can't see it. So it's less than 27,000 or lower in the list then, because it's just not there. Anyway.
Strange.
Yeah,
now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like the Mighty Thor series sold as well as Thor Volume 4, but I am confident in saying that Thor Volume 4 did sell well. It sold a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of the people that are claiming that it didn't sell well really don't know that much about the comic industry, and it really seems like they
don't need to know much about the industry. They just have to see the numbers. That's it.
Yeah, why? I don't need a fucking degree in comic books to know that things don't sell well. Whatever.
It's something we have very little like bias or interest. Like, yeah, this is the number. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but you don't understand the deep thematic themes behind the comic. Man, comic book industry isn't like the stock market. They make a comic, they sell it to comic book stores, people buy it. What more is there? The good ones sell well, the bad ones don't sell well. I don't know. I really don't understand. You just don't understand this industry. Okay, then how shall I understand this industry? Well, look at the numbers. Okay. Number and list say this. You say differently. Me listen to number and list.
Whatever. We're almost done.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Parroting some they heard online from haters. I'm a firm believer that you should always go and do the research yourself. That's why I never started defending the sales data of the Jane Foster books until I went in and confirmed the data so I knew what I was talking about. Whenever you're just repeating information that you heard online, including from this channel, you run the risk of absorbing bias and human errors, which I am human. I might have...
Okay, but again, what are you comparing this to? Just the monthly sales in general, the yearly sales? Like, what's the apples to apples comparison? It's just, here's a comic book, here's a bunch of other comics. It's like, doesn't help me. Why is it popular?
Yeah.
Why did it sell? Tell me why. Show me reasons.
Yeah. Because it doesn't sound like it was selling.
In comparison to other Thor comics, like the one we mentioned in 2007 from JMS, it did not sell as much. It was $1 more expensive. And then it went after issue 1, its sales dropped in half compared to sales dropping by a third from JMS, which was which is above 100,000 per issue 1 to 5 at least. Which then went on to go into 50 plus more comics, as opposed to this, which went for 8. And then they amalgamated into whatever that Legend series is, whatever. Legacy series. Anyway.
Made a mistake. I tried my best to not, but I wouldn't be surprised if I got some of my information wrong, which is why I encourage you to fact check me and let me know. I just don't think...
No, you didn't get it wrong. You're just saying numbers. Like, I could read too. What's your point? What are you trying to say? That it sold relatively well to other comics within the top 500 of the year? Yeah, it did. The top 100. It was. The number 1 was in 73 or whatever. It's like, great.
Yeah.
The rest of them, not so much. No, they didn't do so well.
Yeah, this is really weird. It's almost like I don't even know. It's just like, yeah, the number 1 sold well. Okay, did it keep up that? No. Well, then they're not going to keep going. So
yeah, and they did other things that month, as he said, all those Secret Wars stuff and all the other offshoots, which did really well.
Yeah, so this is the thing. It's like, yeah, but,
anyway,
I don't really know what his argument is with it. It's just like,
here's John Doe, the average Joe. The numbers are amount shipped to stores, not sold. Yes, this is what the brick and mortar owners of the store bought from the publisher. That's right.
We know that.
Yeah.
So this is why we're saying these numbers aren't like,
now,
they're not solid numbers.
The
they're not
one thing
something
you should
really
do. Yeah, the one thing you should do is ask the fans of the Thor series. There's many, many comics out there. Ask a comic book Thor fan, say, what was your favorite run and why? And they might just say the 2007 run. I don't know. They might have some particular tastes. They might talk about Jane Foster. I have no idea. Ask them and why they are good and why they are not good. It's that simple. Because I don't really care if it's sold.
We know why they're not good.
Oh yeah, we know. But I want like an actual argument as to what makes something be of quality. Because there's lots of popularity that's crap, and that's fine. You can like crappy things, but is it something which is valuable? Did JMS do a good job? Did back in the 60s did they do a good job with Thor? How'd that sell? Blah blah blah. All those things.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't care how many they sold to comic book stores, because that's just them just deciding how many they want to do. This is why these numbers aren't really the best thing to. This is what's wrong with the comic book industry, is the fact that once it goes after getting to the comic book store, there's no information about how it sells. How many do they still have on the shelves? Do you know what I mean? Because if a comic book orders like 600 copies and sells none of them, people just look at the 600 and say, well, 600 copies sold. And you're like, well, no, it didn't.
And lest we forget the fact that recently a single manga series outsold the entire American comic book industry combined, which tells you
yeah. But
Demon Slayer, was it? Yeah.
This is why when you just this is why people probably should look at how much money the run made or something, how much or something more than just how many copies comic book store got. But that's probably just me, and I'm probably going to get ripped to pieces for not being an expert in the comic book industry with my diploma and degree in paper writing or something. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, let's just finish this off because this has been a nothing video.
But nothing but
You
math.
actually have an argument in good faith unless you've done the research for yourself. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. I looked over the data, and it looks like that the Jane Foster books actually sold pretty decently, all things considered. Especially when it went to the Mighty Thor stuff, it was very consistent across the board with a few spikes up for the bigger events. I am so tired of just having to talk about Jane Foster. I want to do more with my life, but if you're not tired of hearing about it, then I have a big video explaining why I enjoyed that run in the first place. I went into a lot of the common criticisms, like, why was she getting the name Thor? Thor is the name of Thor Odin's son. It's not a title that you can just pass down. And I explained a bit more of the nuances of things. So if that interests you and you haven't already watched it, maybe
the nuance.
Does Vision have a dick? What a great title. That's fantastic.
Also, it's
my God.
Making Jane Foster Thor just Thor is just the equivalent of changing your name legally. It's like, no, it's his name. I think in an earlier Smudcast about comic books, as Bears brought it up, the fact that there was an Elseworlds where Jane Foster was Thor, and a much better version of Jane Foster Thor at that, and she was just called Thordess. Why didn't they just do that?
That sounds like a lot of effort.
just 3 more letters.
Anyway,
Thordess.
what I recommend is you guys actually checking out the Mighty Thor online. I'm sure you could read it online somehow and see what you think of it. Is it any good? Is it any bad? And then check out the run. Well, not the entire run. That's pretty going to take you longer to read. The JMS version of 2007. See what you like better and why. It's not that hard to figure out what is quality and what is not and why. So have some fun.
Most importantly, form your own opinions.
Yes, have some fun. Read the comics yourself. See why it's good and bad. Make a list. Start making lists of why something is good, why you should concern yourself and your time with a pastime of yours, which is your passion, perhaps like comic books or movies or video games, and say, well, I like this the best. And that's why you have people who play Fallout over and over again and Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto and all these other games because they are actually well done. So... yeah, I guess that's all we have to say. Check out the numbers yourself on comichron.com. I have a bunch of tabs still open. I'll copy and paste them into the description if you guys want to check them out. It's not hard.
We've not even been going an hour.
I know. There's nothing to say. There's no argument. So, yeah.
Do we not have any? Don't I have anything else?
We probably do, but I'm fine with ending it here and calling it a day because that's what you guys wanted.
Are there any stream memes?
Probably not. Let me check.
Can we just have a look?
I highly doubt it.
Anything?
Oh, there is.
Oh, there are. There are. Here we go. Oh my God, this is awesome.
Oh.
I wasn't expecting that.
Speed running the video. I mean, it was just the numbers of the sales and all that. It was just the pure math of it. It wasn't like expressing any kind of additional opinion on it.
It didn't do poorly. It did do poorly. In comparison to what, buddy? Like, give us a criteria.
It's like yeah, but Batman and Spider-Man sold better, and more people would buy those. Okay.
Then it did poorly.
Like, it did poorly. Yeah. But Batman and Spider-Man were 46 out of the top 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Here's Hawk during today's Smudcast. Ugh.
It really was just like, okay.
It would take him longer to brew a cup of tea. That's how long he was sighing for.
Yeah. Well, like you say, there was no argument. I was just like, okay.
Lady Thor actually sold well. So here are a few reasons why Lady Thor didn't sell well. Look at all these other comics. Look at all these much more popular comics that sold much more than Mighty Thor.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Oh no! People have now started to just put more.
Oh no! Wisp is like, why did you do this? Why?
I like Eric's. Howdy. You want me to add an extra hour to Smudcast? Got lots of memes. No. Ooh, fast pass. But yeah, guys, honestly, that was. I'm alright with it being quick. This Didn't expect it to be Colf and Smud. All right, we're finished, guys. Okay.
There's nothing else to say. Honestly, it did not sell well. It did not sell well compared to other comics. It did not sell well to other Thor comics when it debuted, and it didn't last that long. It lasted 8 episodes. So whoop-de-doo.
But it sold really well.
Well, all we gotta do,
Didn't.
I can call up. I doubt they'll have the numbers. I can call up my comic mecha store called Silver Snail downtown Toronto, and say, hey, remember back in 2015 when Jane Foster came out as Thor? How many did you sell? Simple question. They might have it in their database, but that takes some time. So maybe they don't care. They have time to kill. Maybe they'll do it for me. But go around and ask your comic book stores, hey, did that sell well for you guys? How much did you buy? Like basic numbers. A lot, a little, like, it could happen. Anyway, one more super chat. Wow. Strawman, I don't know why you guys are giving me money for a nothing video, but thank you anyway. Femme Thor flopped harder than my wang when I saw Ebby getting raw dogged. Oh my god.
Oh god. Ugh.
Anyway, that was not how I wanted to end this video, but Jesus.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks, I guess, for the video.
Thanks for the day off. We didn't really need.
Yeah.
I know it's Monday, but we could have had something to say.
Yeah. Next time, give us a longer video or something with an argument. That'd be great.
Just give us. I'm sorry. I'm just like.
I'm gonna go work out now and do my taxes for next year. I have all this time.
Just remember that it's usually at least like 1:30 in the morning when we usually finish. It's 11:10.
Yeah.
We finished 2 hours earlier than set time aside for. I got 2 hours to do something now.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, thank you guys. Have yourself a great evening. Thanks for the short video. Try to make them a little bit more, any substance of something of some kind. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, if it's going to be about comic books, don't have something with about sales, because it's just looking at numbers.
Yeah.
And once we find the numbers to disprove it, there's no more. It's not like opinion. It's just, well, here's the numbers compared to some other numbers. You're wrong. Anyway, moving on to the next point.
Yeah. Anyway,
so
have a